Okay, we got there. Better late than never. Hello, welcome along. Inspire and
Hi,
be
buddy.
inspired. No, I'm not talking to you yet. It's just me on the screen. Right, so we have just had the palaver of all palavers. I'm just going to do a very quick introduction. We are live on Facebook, but I am going to kill the Facebook stream any second and invite everybody over to see us on YouTube. My guest today is a gentleman. By pressing this button, I should bring him on. And we have the one and only DJ Spoony. How are you, sir? You all right?
Looking
good.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, well, it's middle of the night now, but it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, just saying, we're multi-streaming to YouTube as well, and also to Facebook. We want to invite everybody to come over and hear. What do you think we're going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about your event. We're going to talk about your rise and your rise. It's Mental Health Week. We're going to scratch the surface on anything that you may want to discuss surrounding that, because I'm sure there have been a few ups and downs in your career, right? You think there's something we can touch on at some point?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Wonderful.
My take on it all. Yeah.
There you go. So Facebook crew, do come and join us over at youtube.com/DJ Andy Ward. Myself, DJ Spoony. I'm killing the Facebook now. So we're off of Facebook. Goodbye. Okay, so Facebook is gone. We are live on YouTube. I'll say good evening to Jimmy, to Emily, to John, Mrs. Ward, and a few others that will be passing through, and a world of people coming back to check out the recording with the one and only DJ Spoony. Thank you for giving me your time, sir.
Pleasure, bud.
We are live and direct at Radio 2, right? I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah. I'm at the Radio 2 studio. I've come here because I'm covering Trevor's show tonight. He would typically be on from 10 till midnight. So that's 10 o'clock UK time. So that's when I'll be on. So I just thought I'd come here, do it, and then I'm already in situ to do some prep, etc., etc.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow, we're going to find out how a young gentleman from North London, right?
Yeah.
North London.
Yeah, North East London. It's similar in the same.
Around there. Gets to just be casually standing in for Trevor Nelson on Radio 2 on a Monday night, you know. We have spoken on the Soulful House Mafia channel before, talking. It was mainly focusing on the rise of UK garage alongside Soulful House. So I didn't really get to talk about your own journey. And I'm fully aware that we're not going to be able to cover the whole journey in this short conversation that we're having. But have you ever really told the backstory to yourself, your rise and rise, as I'm like loving to call it? Has it been documented well before?
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure in bits and clips I've done it. I'm sure if you go online, you can most probably cut and paste a few different interviews together where I've spoken about the beginning and, you know, working a 9 to 5 in parallel with my hobby that then became my career. But yeah, I can answer anything that you want.
Well, let's do it then. Let's find out about the young Spoony, specifically the streets of what borough in London?
So I'm a Hackney boy. I lived in the east of the borough, which had an E postcode, that's where the east comes from. But then I moved to the north of the borough and it had an N postcode. So when people say East London, North London, I effectively was born in East London, but lived most of my life in North London. But it's much the same. Do you know what I mean? It's there's no difference there.
So the turn of the 70s, I'd hazard a guess.
Yeah, 1970. I was born in 1970. In June, so my birthday next month. Lived in east of Hackney in Homerton until I was 5, 6, and then we moved to Stoke Newington, which is a little bit more north central of the borough, same borough of London Borough of Hackney. And I went to school up until 11 in Hackney, and then I went to school across the border and went to school in Islington. And yeah, that was it. That was my school.
That's a journey.
Life.
Did you ever bring trouble to the door? So two questions, brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So I grew up with 3 brothers, so 4 of us with my mum. Stephen's 2 years younger than me. Trevor's 2 years younger than Stephen. and Aishan is 11 years younger than me. So
Okay.
there was a little bit of a gap, but yeah.
Big
When
bro. So
yeah.
I would say being the elder of you probably had to be the man of the house then. So maybe didn't bring too much trouble to the door.
I mean, being the man of the house, I would call it being, responsibility was something that was quite high on, and I accepted it. My mum was very straight talking. She kind of kept it simple in that if you want me to treat you like an adult, you're going to have to behave like an adult. If you want to have all the benefits of being an adult, you have to behave like an adult, which means that if I tell or ask you to do something, I don't want to come and have to ask you to do it more than once. And I expect it to be done properly first time round. And for that, your privileges will be that you can have your friends over. You could go and play football when you want to go and play football. You could play music as long as it's not too loud when you want to play music. But these are the privileges that you earn from being responsible. If I go out and I say when I come back, I want the shopping done or I want the bathroom cleaned, I need you to take your brother here. If you do all of that stuff without me having to come back and double check, then you can have all of these luxuries. And I just quite quickly worked out that you actually get more freedom. I actually got more freedom from my mum by doing more stuff on time, not the other way around. So, the misconception would be like, no, you just do what you want. Then it would have just been a lockdown worse than the one we suffered in this country in 2019. So I just, just did as I was told and got the freedom and the benefits of that. And I think actually moving forward into later life, it made me kind of realize that my mum had this adage, if you must do what you have to do before you do what you want to do. And that's kind of like how I kind of live my life. I get all of my jobs done and then I can play. That's how we were brought up,
Beautiful, conscientious, a hell of a lot of self-respect, and it's clear to see it's stood you in good stead as the years have gone on. So you mentioned about football. It's well documented your love for football, and it's well documented you were a decent footballer, right? Let's spend 2 minutes talking about
that. I mean, let's spend 1 minute 50 seconds talking on how much I love football as opposed to how good I was. I mean, love of football. I think my time and energy. Football was my first love. I've always loved music, but football was something that I actively participated in as long as I can remember myself. Going with my older uncles and my aunt's boyfriends to, stand on the sidelines on a Sunday morning and playing myself, and then playing in the school team and the district team, and then later on having trials at professional football clubs. But it's something that I've always loved. I'm a passionate fan of football. I'm a passionate Liverpool fan. Big up man like Daryl B. I've been over Europe, watching my beloved football team. I watch football live. I work in football as well now, so I have done for a few years. But yeah, I've been able to combine yet another one of my hobbies with my career. So yeah, very fortunate in that way.
Wonderful. We'll talk about that as it went on. As always, I like to make this as interactive as I can, and I can see all of the comments. Thank you, everybody, for your shout-outs. Big up to Mr. Daz Norman, EDD, Pax, Gareth Tucky, Schooley, and Maxine Mills saying a shout-out. So any comments, leave them in the chat, and I'll see them, and when there's a break in the conversation, I'll draw reference to them. So then I guess we talk about... Shall we talk about life for you on the streets of Northeast London, and you have memories of like the sound system days? Because obviously the UK in the 70s was a very different scene. I always draw reference to the film Babylon, something like that. That would have been life for you, right?
Anyone who's ever listened to me speak for more than 15 minutes at some point would have had at least one reference to Babylon, and the influence that film had on me and my life. And I guess growing up, all we ever really wanted to do was, the main two jobs were not to disappoint my mum and have a good sound system, right? Maybe be good at football as well. But we, that film was very, very profound. And like you said, I grew up in the days of sound systems, going out, listening to the sound systems on tape pack, or not tape packs, just individual copied tapes. Hanging out with my friends with a view to, right, what party can we play at, and we can take our sound system, not having any transport, carrying 18-inch speaker boxes a mile to the venue, having to stop for breaks because your arm felt numb. Then having to do that when the venue finished at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And that was my apprenticeship. But such was my, by then at 15, 16, love of music, that the privilege of being able to carry your own sound system into a venue and DJ on it, you'd never look back and think, wow, I've carried 18 speakers through the streets.
And the welts on the hands from the fruit boxes, with the vinyl in, right?
Yeah, and then you'd have to change ends, right? Because the 18-inch boxes, the scoop on them, the bottom part of it was lighter. So whoever was carrying the speaker end, it was heavier. You'd have to walk a little bit and then switch it round. And then the records are another thing altogether. But I kind of enjoyed carrying the records because, I was the DJ. So, that's
okay. So you did actually, so you weren't just the box boy, you did actually get to put the vinyl on the turntable.
Yeah. No, by that time when I was carrying speakers, I was carrying speakers for our sound system.
Okay.
My uncle Winston, is my cousin, but he's older, so he's my uncle. He used to have a van, so sometimes he would come and help us. Again, like these people, when I think of that, like how important he was to my life in the most subtle way. Do you know what I mean? He would come and help us take our sound, and he would just hang around until we finished and then take us home. And, I look back at that and think, wow, man, well, that's deep. That's actually very deep. My mind just drifted off there. And that was us. But when Winston wasn't available, we would, we'd have to carry the amps and carry the speakers, and, always have to remember that I've taken the power lead for the amp came from Mum's electric kettle, and it needed to be back on Sunday morning, because if you wrap that wire up and put it in with the speaker wire, when you get in and you want to be sleeping and Mum gets up to have a cup of tea and she can't, then it's off, bruv. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned about wire. I don't want to make light of it, but would there ever been an occasion where maybe the netting wire might have come from the window and been used again? Because it was in my house.
Yeah, no. I mean, I listen, things went down in there. I don't remember the netting coming down, but, it's not that. I'm not going to say that I would have got beaten with the kettle lead. But when you've had 3-4 hours sleep, the screaming that would have gone on, especially like my mum. I'll tell you what it was with my mum, right? If she hadn't told me to make sure I don't forget, she'd be all right, cool. But if she told me to make sure you don't forget, and then I forgot, that would be a thing. So I would just have to be on point, and I would go, "No, mate, whatever it is, I make sure." I remember one time us getting the speakers to one place and the cables and the amp went to one place, and I got home and went in, walked past the kitchen, went up to, and I got into my bedroom and realised that the kettle lead was where the cables were, and I had to run back downstairs, run over to my friend's house before we went to bed and said, I need that cable because I ain't starting my Sunday, not starting my Sunday like that, and went back and plugged it in. And everything's peaceful. We actually, I don't know what we ended up getting paid that night, £60 or something between us. We went and bought our own power amp cable. So
your own. I think they're called kettle leads as well. Well, I
kettle
call
leads.
them kettle leads.
They're kettle leads. I still call it that. Still call it that because that's where they used to come from before they were all built into that fancy round plate. Wow, we're going back here.
Yeah, wonderful. Pat Badeau, good evening, sir. He's asking you what was the sound system called. I don't know if you touched on that.
Yeah, well, I had a couple. We had one called Salt and Pepper and one called Tom and Jerry.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So those were the names of the sound systems that we had. We actually, the first one I had was with my brother, my cousin Jason, and my friend Wayne, called Squadron 4, and we used to wear combat clothes when we did an event. But then there
Okay,
those guys,
militant.
yeah,
We're
militant.
militant.
We were squadron, and then Stephen and Wayne went more down the reggae route, and Jason and I went more down the soul route, and then I started, Salt and Pepper with Wayne Satnarine, and Stephen Howard is the guy who actually taught me how to mix. But in between, I had a little thing called Tom and Jerry, and that was with the legendary MC now that's called GQ, the drum and bass MC. So Gary and I, we grew up on the same estate. At the time, Gary was a DJ and I was an MC, and somewhere they swapped over. Yeah. But it was a good decision from him because he's had an unbelievable career. He's one of the most respected drum and bass MCs. So yeah, we grew up on the same estate.
Well, I was going to say, in your early days, looking back, many of us have parties that we ran with for many years alongside GQ. Is there anyone else as you started to get towards the late teens, early 20s who you've had riding by your side ever since?
No, I mean, friend wise, I would go as far as saying, and this is largely because of football as well, I would say at least 70% of my friendship group, and maybe 80, but at least 70% of my friendship group have been in my life for 25 years plus. And at least at that amount is most probably 50% of that have been around me for 35 years plus. So, I'll be here all day if I'm...
Well, it's mad to say. When you say about 25 years isn't that long ago, really. If you think back to 25 years, the height of what was going down with the Dream Team and everything, 1998... anyway, we'll get onto that.
I mean, the thing is, if I meet somebody and they say 70-80% of their friendship group still today are 25 years plus in, I know that person's a decent person, because if the people around you have not been around you for a long time, there must be something about how transient you are. That's how I look at it. So I see it as sort of stripes on my arm, not for me but for us, that we are still, was it last weekend, the weekend before, I was doing an event in at Printworks, and I looked out and I went, wow. Now Alan Poulton and his wife were there. Alan I went to school with, I was 11, we're still best mates. So what's that, that's over 40 years. And he was out raving with me, and then I took him to my next gig as well. So this is like a regular occurrence. Do you know what I mean? GQ is still my friend. I mean, that's 45 years odd. DJ Ron went to the same primary school. This is another 40-year friendship. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got into that so deep. But
just a conversation, because we're not going to, as I always say, we're not going to get the whole life story in this. But I think it's important because you made a very valid point there. It does give a measure of the man by the people that you were with. And if you've got people who will stand by you and you'll stand by them, it just goes to show your character somewhat. So
I just want to add on to that, because I was just thinking this is really important, right? So growing up, when I decided that I was going to start DJing, and MCGQ taught me how to scratch, and Steve Howard, who I'm sure will get mentioned again, taught me how to mix, right? And I used to spend all of my spare time, if I wasn't doing schoolwork or playing football, I was practicing. I used to practice religiously, and got quite decent, and I was competent, and I was a good DJ. But the funny thing about that was, in my postcode, I had DJ Ron, who was already like competing in DMC championships. Same thing with DJ Hype. He lived the other side of my primary school. Trevor Nelson lived a couple of roads along. So even in my immediate postcode, at best, I was fourth, right? So talk about keep yourself humble, that you're just running flat out to keep pace with these guys. So that was the hotbed. And when you look at the careers that these people have had, Ron, Hype, GQ, who had hung up his headphones by there, Trevor Nelson, who I'm sitting in for tonight, these guys lived 5-minute walk from me.
let me give a mention to DJ Ron's London Something podcast on YouTube. It's really good. I've only recently got into that.
Okay.
Really, really, really great. Really good. I lost my train of thought then by mentioning that we were talking about. Oh, that was what I was going to ask briefly. Sound systems. Any legendary clashes where you came away with your tail between your legs, or you were 10 feet tall, rolling back a slight bit? But
there's a 10 feet tall one. I mean, we didn't have many clashes, but I remember, and this was a big one for us, because we used to use Milton Gardens Estate Youth Club and Mayville Youth Club. And Mayville Youth Club, where Steve lived, that was where I really started to DJ. Factory as well, was anyone who's listening from Hackney and Stone Newington, you'd remember the Factory Youth Club. Anyway, one of the boys from my school, Highbury Grove, wanted to pit us against Islington's finest. They were called Scorpion, right? But we were having it in Islington on Upper Street at St Mary's Youth Club, and I remember it clearly. So all week I was thinking, right, I know what I'm going to do to how I'm going to open, what I'm going to do to start our set. We're going on there, and it was rammed. We got there, everyone had most probably paid £2 to get in, 300 people in there, £600. We were going to get something like £40 for playing between the three of us. But I was like, right, I know what I'm going to do. And it was now our turn to go on. And I said, Steve, yeah. And he said, are you going to do that? And I was like, yeah. He goes, you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, but what if you make a mistake? And I'm like, I won't, man. I've practiced this. I've got this, man. And he said, all right, go on. So I took the record out, and the condensation, it was so hot in there, steamed the record up. And then I started to dry it. And then that made me a little bit nervous. I'm like, oh, what if I lose my grip? Anyway, the first record that I signed on with was Rock the Bells by LL Cool J, but I scratched the intro a cappella. LL Cool J, and it was done by, I can't remember the American, but anyway, I'd done that, got through it, the crowd went mad, and that was it. Like, you know, we were off and running. And I think
this 85, 86?
85, 86, yeah.
Okay, so that was the one, the crowd, yeah.
The crowd went mad, and immediately it's like you then, you know, like when you go to school and you're, if you're a fast runner or you're very good at football at school, like those were the currencies growing up, right?
That defined you. It defined you.
It wasn't about who had money. Like, yeah, if you had nice trainers, if you had nicer trainers than me, but I could beat you in a race, it don't make sense having the nice trainers, right? So I suppose it was a way that poor people like us were like, right, we're not going to get oppressed by the money. It's about the raw skills. When we play runouts, you can't catch me. When we play football, I dribble past you and I nutmeg you. And anyway, doing that in front of my peers was just like, this is it. I don't need to come off the estate again. Like I'm nice now.
I'm bathing.
I'm bathing. And you know what I mean? That was it. Yeah, that was. But that's what we lived for. You know, just simple pleasures and respect from our peers. That was it.
Beautiful story. Pax says your man Scully from Sovereign Sound System lives opposite him.
What? Big up Scully. Yeah, man. Yeah. Big things. That's what I'm saying. That's, the sound boys, we know it's funny. Like I turn up to a gig every now and again and something goes wrong technically, and I just go back into sound boy mode and I'm cabling and wiring up because, But
this is where sometimes a little bit of the aloof comes in and a little bit of arrogance and resentment from other people when they talk about DJs nowadays. They don't know, that they're born, because it's that whole package that gives you, if you are in a session and someone's only used to working on bits and pieces and it goes wrong, they're scratching their head going, well, I haven't got the faintest idea how all of this works, so what am I going to do? So yeah, definitely a badge of honor was
like an apprenticeship, innit? That back then you had to go through all of the stages before you got to put a record on the deck. So from carrying the speakers to knowing where you would put the speakers and why they go there and they don't go there, then you could get out of the speakers, then you're into the amps and then the preamp and the equalizer and the power amp and the relationship between the two. Then where you put, by the time you go to put a record, you're well versed in all of that stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm an engineer, but
of course. But the thing is as well, it's also easy to forget when you're going back 35 years. The equipment that we were working on was quite rudimentary as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but that kept it. But the truth is, that kept it quite simple. You know, if the amp went, the first thing you do, you screw the back and see if the fuse went, because that's normally what the problem was. Like, those things were very, very robust. So we'd always have a couple of spare power amp fuses. Sometimes it's a channel, but then you've got a problem. Now, how can you then bridge it? How can you run the sound system on one amp? Then you have to like double up the speakers. You don't get the same amount of power, but you've still got some sound. So, you know, it's the problem solving. And then
you sound like an engineer to me.
Then worst comes to the worst, like out of Babylon when the sound got nicked. You have to go and find someone and borrow one. You know what I mean?
Oh dear. Classic movie. I actually had forgotten your affinity with that movie, so I'm glad that I drew reference to that.
Yeah, brilliant. So am I.
Killer movie. Okay, so let's again skipping through. When we spoke with Chrissy before, you talked of the time where you went to the offices of Garage City trying to sell them a photocopier. Was that what you started off as, working in tech?
Yeah, no, I was actually, at that time, I think I was working in a job centre, but a friend of mine used to work in tech, so he would have, you know, get computers and consumables, and you know, I knew that the guys, you know, Michael Bulgin, Mickey Zoo, and Bobby and Steve, they needed some office stuff, so I went and done a little deal with them.
So it was even more of a blag then, and even more of a blag than the story that you told us the first time around. If that wasn't actually what you did.
yeah. So I had the stuff, and then I knew that they wanted it, so I done them a deal where they would buy it, but part of the deal was that I would get to play once a month for 6 months at Garage City and get an appearance on the radio show, and use that as leverage to then springboard and open other doors for myself. So it was a mutually beneficial arrangement.
Mm-hmm. Well, we probably skip forward a fair bit there. When in the when you did the LL Cool J, the scratching and the sound system, so that was hip hop into the soul, and that, you know, we would have had the legendary all days up and down the country. Were you ever jumping on coaches and doing that?
Not really. I was still too young really to go to them, and I was playing a lot of football at that age. So you know, my weekends were largely playing football, and then, you know, practicing my music if you know, 15, 16. I wasn't really going out raving in that sense, but I had quite a, how can I call it? Because I was collecting my music by then, I had a very deep interest in the music, and would listen to, you know, they used to record those and put them on vinyl, Soul All Day of the Century.
I'm just about to ask, were you at Hammersmith and you know, legendary?
No,
what year was that? I mean, I'm sure double or Scully will tell me. Was that 87, 88?
Was that as late as 88? I mean, 86, 87, 88. They were definitely around that age, that time. Michael Sobel Sports Centre in Finsbury Park. But the Soul All Day, you know, 12 in the afternoon till midnight, Soul All Day of the Century, like legendary DJ Ron mixing Spoonful of Sugar.
Spoonful of Sugar.
There you go. Yeah,
chitty, bang, and so on iconic. And so on. Okay, iconic. So is there any major bits that we should talk about before then we get into the Garage City era and the Soulful House era, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was come, you know, 15, 16, it was hip hop, it was Big Daddy Kane, it was EPMD, Public Enemy. Then, you know, a little bit later on, started getting, I mean, at the same time as that, it would have been.
And then girls are coming onto the scene. So it's.
Well, they were already kind of there. Like, I think I had my first girlfriend at 15 and a half. But, you know, at that time, as well as the hip hop, it would have been Change and Loose Ends.
SOS Band and yeah.
Change, SOS Band, Loose Ends, Jones Girls. I loved my Rear Groove as well. So I'm getting, I could go deep into that. But the actual DJing stuff, it was that music. And then a few years after, I always loved my soul, but I developed this passion for house music and US house music. And
can you remember why? Is there a pivotal moment or a pivotal track?
No, you know what? I think I might have heard a few tracks around, the same type, like Your Bad Chubs by Chub Rock was a tune that I used to love. Tyreek, Acid Thunder, Acid Over, Dion, Come and Get My Love In, Ralph Rosario, Love Will Find a Way. So, these tunes, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And this is like around, the Summer of Love, 1988 time. And it was like, wow, this is different. So now I'm into house music more. And then it then started to branch and go. I didn't mind some of the early techno, the Detroit techno. I didn't mind some of it. And then it started going too far left and I wanted more soul. And then that's when I started and I discovered Masters at Work and Kerry Chandler and Murillo was there as a producer, but that funky sound, Strictly Rhythm,
Murillo and Sanchez.
There you go, Sanchez.
Doors.
There you go.
So let me ask you, clubbing wise, you say you were still playing football, so you were quite disciplined. You've always been known to be disciplined. I've always known you as being a very healthy, clean living person. Was there ever a time when you got into drinking? Or never?
No. Still never drunk. Still never smoked. I stopped eating meat 10 years ago in June. Next month will be like 10 years I've stopped eating meat. Still exercise regularly. But the thing with that is it's not in a evangelistical way. It's just something that I've always done. This is like normal. This is normal for me. And this is largely because I've always played football. I've always been active and sporty. So,
You've got to have been influenced as well by rubbing shoulders, friends of the stars, professional footballers at the absolute peak of their personal fitness. That has got to have had an effect on you as well to see how it benefits them.
The funny thing is, by the time I started meeting a lot of those guys, my sort of character in that sense was already formed. And listen, when they're not playing, they party when they're not playing, but they have the discipline when they are playing to get their head down. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite regimented what they do when they're in season and when they're playing. And in the summer, when we might go on holiday, then they'd enjoy themselves. But, it's the whole thing of, work hard, play hard, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure we will skip across Iron Upper 98 to 2001 at some point. So I was going to ask you about the going out and partying, being turned on to the house music. Some of the big parties you recall going to. So you would have been supporting the Garage Cities, the Zoo Experience and the likes.
Yeah, I mean, at that stage, before that, standing in a field or in a warehouse in Stratford or, somewhere around the M25 for a sunrise or a Genesis, listening to, a Cole Cox or a Trevor Fung or Danny Ramplin or Fabio and Groove Rider, where these guys would all play on the same bill on the main stage, 40,000 K rig and all the rest of it.
Were you looking up at them thinking that's going to be me? Or at this point, didn't you have that?
The truth, that had come before.
Okay.
And that looking up and thinking, I would love to do this, actually for me happened more at Notting Hill Carnival and going to KCC and going to Good Times with Norman. And there was something for me about partying in the street felt like the truest form of partying. It felt like the truest form of a festival for whatever it was. And, my mum from St. Kitts, my dad's from Antigua. So being at Notting Hill Carnival, there was a certain affection with that.
I was just about to say, there must be an affinity to
Yes.
growing up, you know.
100%. And then the fusion with the sound system culture. So you had the floats and the carnival and the mass side of it, and then of course we had the sound systems, which is, you know, our sort of our turn on it. So yeah, I remember looking up at Norman one year, going, and it rained all day, and just think, I think it's like 85 or 86, and I was like, I would love to do that. And I'm looking, going, if he asked me to come on these decks now, I could go and do it right now. I would get out there and do it, you know. But you know, I've been DJing at KCC. We must be 20 odd years now. Every year I go and do that. And I absolutely adore it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It would have made it even more poignant then when you controlled the carnival with your own stage many years down the line. So many wonderful achievements that you've done. So just happily going along and putting a timeline on how the progression began. So playing very, very much known just for the soulful sound, because that's what it was. And then the sound would begin to morph into the Sunday sound, however you want to call it. Did you find yourself moving more towards that? You know, you mentioned Daryl B earlier, one of the pioneers of the beginnings of the movement, and Creed and the likes, and with Dominic. How did you find yourself getting pulled more towards those guys?
So we Daryl and I actually were on the same pirate on London Underground. It's ultimately where I met Timmy and Mikey, and DJ Hermit was on there, and Ramsey and Fen. So, but at the time, when I joined there, I was playing all US stuff. And to be honest with you, a lot of the music out at the time was US, but that was really my thing. And then just gradually, more and more records were being produced from the UK that had that sound. And then you had the explosion of Nice and Ripe, and it's like every release that came out on Nice and Ripe, Grant Nelson, Richard Purser, Paul Benjamin, Jeremy Sylvester, and all their various guises started coming out. But it still had that 4/4 skip, but just with a bit of a bigger bass line and a bit of a bigger bump. Suburban Records from the US, there was a point where it felt like that could be a UK label, but you know, it's Victor Simonelli and Tommy Musto, early doors, the Suburban stuff. But that sound, I was like, yeah, this is my sound. And then it just started to move on. And then, you know, UK Garage is there in its own right and its own entity. But you know, if I listen to old mixtapes of mine, and I don't cringe too much, the music that I'm playing, you know, it's
on point.
Why very much a US?
Why cringe?
No, because you know, listen, you know, as a DJ, technically, you're like, well, that mix was a little bit out, and that was a little bit of a heavy touch, and it's always hard listening to yourself for that reason, being a perfectionist. But you know, we're not robots, and on some of the equipment that we would have been using as well, we're lucky to even get any kind of mix. I don't know when them decks ever got serviced.
Yeah, well, I have the same notions when I listen back to some of my earlier sets, but that's mainly alcohol induced. So you're probably being a bit harsh on yourself, as you say, being a perfectionist. No, but you had to try a thing back then. You've always taken pride in what you've done. Shout out to Danny44. Thank you, mate, for your comment. So we were talking about the UK garage sound. I would have brought you up to Birmingham to DJ at a release party early 97. It wasn't long after that, via Patrick Smooth, I met Tony Portelli. Tony was managing you at the time. How did your connection with Tony come about?
He knew Timmy. He was a friend of Timmy's I think he put out Timmy's first ever release, because Timmy had been making music from before we met. You know, we joined up as a dream team. Timmy wanted to make tunes, and then Tony was there. So yeah, that was that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then myself and Smoothie supporting you on the UK tour. Yeah. Can you remember what year that was? Was it 98?
97, I think. 97, 98, yeah.
The UK made great in Britain. Very proud of being the residents on the tour, up and down the country.
Pleasure. Look at that. It's mad, isn't it? I saw the flyer for that the other day.
Yeah, I've got one somewhere. I've got a tape that I did on the HMV on Oxford Street when the album came out. I actually
Yeah.
had to do the release. Me doing the release for the album on Oxford Street HMV. It was wonderful, wonderful
Mad, innit?
times. Yeah, so many beautiful memories. So around about that time, then tell us about the what it felt like. Tell us about the emotions, knowing that you were kind of just the heat around you, the buzz. It was, what's the word? Palpable. You could, you
Feel
could
it, yeah.
touch it, feel it.
Yeah, and I've got to try and be. I don't want this to come across as being like nonchalant at all, right? Because it genuinely isn't. But because we were doing it together, right? And I say that as in Timmy and Mikey, and we had such a bond and such a friendship, and they were already grown men. They were grown men, so we weren't kids. We really kept each other's feet on the ground. Like if you ever listened to us or hung out with us, you would not have thought that these guys are riding the crest of a wave with an explosion of a UK genre. And I would walk in Iron Napa. We would walk down the road with professional footballers who were playing in the Premiership, and they would ask them to take the picture of us with the person. Like that's kind of like where we were. But
I was there with you by your side. I saw it all.
The funny thing was, it's not like we had security and drivers and chefs and cooks and PAs, and we never had all of that paraphernalia around us. So if anyone was getting at and above themselves a little bit, the other two would just quickly bring them in. So we just was, we were never like that. And listen,
sorry, carry on.
Go on.
I was going to say, you mentioned about chefs and drivers and all of that. Clearly, I don't want you to be specific, but in my mind, I don't, at that point, 98, 99, I am not sure there was huge money flying around, or am I wrong? Was there huge money flying around?
Not. I mean, it's all relative, right? Because
of course.
Even though I say chefs and all of that, I went from in 1997. That's the last year that when I was working 9 to 5, and actually I went part-time. I went from 5 days a week to 4 days a week to 3 days a week in a space of about 6 months because the career was taken up. And then I had to like resign because it was, it was too busy. But I went from earning, I don't know, something like £1,000 a month plus bonuses, which might have been another 25%, to earning at least that on one weekend. So it's the gear change and the shift in what's available. So I was able to survive on £1,000 or £1,200 a month and buy records and put petrol in the car and, buy decent clothes and get my hair cut every week and go to Juniors and have an oxtail rice and peas after I've had my trim. Right. So I was able to do that comfortably. But then, within a few months, I was earning 4-5 times that amount, which was, was ridiculous. In real terms, I think if on a pro rata basis, the money that I paid for my first flat, what I earned that whole year might have been able to buy that flat outright. If I look at that now, as to go what I would have to earn to buy that same flat, it's ridiculous when you look at it in those terms. So it is, it's relative that I didn't have a chef. It is, I didn't have a chef, but a chef might have earned £300 a week. Then I might have been able to afford a chef if I wanted one.
I get you. Well, it was definitely the heights. I've lost the flow of the timeline from when you were on Kiss to then come on to Galaxy to then go on to Radio 1. I mean, I think we can just bundle all of that together. So tell us about that whirlwind.
So we were on. We all had separate shows on London Underground. We met. We used to actually have a joke across the airwaves because Timmy and Mikey were Arsenal fans. I was a Liverpool fan. We'd have a bit of banter when we played each other. I already had so much respect for what they did as DJs before I even met them. Mikey was so upfront, but he played the best upfront records. Timmy technically just loved to mix and how he would put his stuff together. So I had a professional appreciation for him, and really was looking forward to meeting him at the next station meeting, which we used to have, as you do on a pirate. And met them, we started talking, and then it worked out. We lived within like a mile of each other. So we started hanging out in the week. We'd come round to mine because I had my decks like set up quite nice, and we'd started doing mixtapes. We then did a couple of shows together on London Underground, and then I got a phone call from a venue in East London called the Powerhouse, and they said, you know, I want all three of you to play, but can you write? I want you to do the ad. I'll pay you to do the ad and pay you, but I want all the three of you to play. And I wrote the ad, and before I went to record it, I was like, there's something missing. There's something just not like tying in. I need that payoff line, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I couldn't do the ad yet. I was like, I can't do it. And I slept on it. And then the next day it came to me. And that was the first time we said the dream team, Tim and Magic, Mikey B and DJ Spoony. And then that was it. The dream team was the payoff, done the ad. We then, you know, garage started happening. Matt John Lamont and Carl Tough Brown were already on Kiss, but they wanted more because garage was being blared out of every single car, especially in the capital. I know it was happening in Birmingham, but it was equally happening in Manchester and Ipswich and Leeds and Huddersfield. So all of these places around the UK. So Kiss came. We were on Kiss for like a year and a half. We went from having one show on the network to having three. Like we had two Dream Team shows, and I had my own show on there. And we went to them because we wanted to get our show syndicated, because it got to the point where we knew that garage wasn't just London, because we were always on the road. You know, Cardiff and Swansea were massive, Reading, massive, Swindon, huge for garage. And we were like, they're not really getting serviced unless we are in the clubs. And at the time, there was syndicating shows. Graham Gold and Alex P and Brandon Block had syndicated shows, which went out in Manchester and Birmingham and Newcastle, and I think Cardiff. And we were like, could we have one of those shows? And they said, no, like, you know, we really like what you're doing, but we're not ready for that yet. So we left it. We went back to them about 9 months later. They said, no, we already had the offer and the request from Galaxy. Kiss said no. We went to Galaxy. We're at Galaxy for 6 months, built a nice new studio for us. And then Radio 1 knocked on the door and said, look, you know, do you want to come in? And that was that.
Wow.
Did a pilot.
It was only 6 months at Galaxy, but you always knew that was the stepping stone, right? You always knew.
You know what? With all due respect to them, they were fantastic. They were fantastic with us signing us. They gave us everything we wanted. And even when Radio 1 came, they were fantastic as well. Like, I can't speak highly enough of the management there at the time. It was a good time for us. It was good. I think the station revenues went up on that slightly. Advertising was, you know, off the scale. I got seriously ill during that period as well, but still turned up and did the show. And yeah, we were good. And then Radio 1 came, and yeah, off we went, man.
And then that was was it the Sunday morning?
Sundays 10 till 1. Yeah, Sunday mornings 10 till 1.
I always remember traveling up and down the country listening to the show, and it's already weird. I'm fairly certain I said this before when we were talking with Chrissy. I always remember one show, the banter was fantastic on the show, and I remember you like cursing out people who dry their clothes on the radiators in the house. Ridiculous how things stick in your mind. I was chuckling. I was like, only John can say that live on the radio. You're offending half the country.
Yeah, I mean, this is it, right? It's what I think between the three of us, one thing we've always tried to be is inclusive. So there's always going to be one of us that's going to say something outlandish, and the other two are going to hold them up for being ridiculous. Myself, the thing is, when you put stuff on the radiator, it always gets crispy and the house looks messy. So for me, that's why it can't go on the radiator. Yeah. So you know, when you say something like that, you know you're going to get shot down. Do you know what I mean? I just have to take it on the chin.
Well, I remember it 20 years later. So, I mean, I've got better memories of you than just that. But
that's all right. that's a cheeky, funny one. That,
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've got another one. Me and you walking along the beach in Napa, one of the years when all the footballers were there.
Yeah.
I wasn't really taking care of myself. You were in a really good position. You looked down at me, you went, "Doesn't it bother you having that big beer belly?" I mean, I'm skinny anyway, right? But
Andy, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's okay. I've got big shoulders. I took it. I was just like, shut up, you twat.
Yeah. But you know what? The thing is, all jokes aside, I think you have to be really sort of comfortable with somebody to say that to them. And we've been on the road, and I'd come up to Brum, and you'd been down to London, and you were on our tour, and you were on our tour because we rated you and we wanted you on our tour. So there's a little bit of friend brotherly love. Boys play a little bit different, don't they? So but it's all love. It's all love. You only say that love. You only say those kind of things to people that you care about. Do you know what I mean? Or that you know what?
It was cool because there have been times down the years I've caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I'm like, if only Spoony could see me now.
Living rent free in his head.
There you go. All right. Anyway, we're going off topic here. We're not going to be here for hours and hours, but how long have I got you for? Are you watching the clock? Are we good?
I'm here for another hour or so if you need me.
Okay, sweet. Well, let's carry on then. So the rise and rise. Let's talk about those crazy times of Radio 1 and the beginnings. So when I put the very tongue-in-cheek thumbnail out there promoting this conversation, saying celeb status, and you were like, "What's that all about, Wardy?" I was like, "Well, it's a term of endearment, mate. We are all genuinely, sincerely proud of you, and I think it's a mark of yourself." And this will come back to what I was saying about Mental Health Week, that there's a slight uneasiness. Is it because you don't want people to think that you're cocky? Because I'm sure people have said that about you in the past, right? I don't think it's a secret. Unjustified. Have you ever felt misunderstood because you're so outspoken, you're so confident? Yeah, there's about 20 different questions that I just asked you. Forgive me.
Yeah, I think like if I'll kind of try and package that all, because I think it's really important to be aware of not just how you're. It's being aware of what you're emitting, right? It's being aware of what's coming out from you. And I know that I'm not. I know that I'm not an arrogant person. I know I help anybody. I've helped a million people. I know I'm sort of confident in myself and my ability, but not in a sense of putting anyone else down. But what I also know is in the world that we live and the world that we were operating in, that coming at it with or at least trying to come at it with a pair of professional eyes and professional ears when everyone was just partying, that it made me sort of stick out as a little bit of an odd one. But I was kind of focused and driven and determined on what it was that I wanted to do, and had to accept that how people viewed what I was doing was how they viewed it. But I could never let that change my viewpoint. I think testament is that when I speak to people like you now, or some other people that I'm not going to name check because I don't want to embarrass them, and they say, "You know what, mate, like, well done, because you stuck to your guns," and there's a part of me that wished I might have been a little bit more professional or forward thinking. And I don't say that in the sense of that I'm a know-it-all. I just had a clear idea of what it was that I wanted to do. And you have to take what comes with that. Do you know what I mean? You have to take that people don't always see your vision. With regards to the Dream Team, I mean, I didn't know Timmy and Mikey for years before we met, but what happened was, I don't know what it was, but they just trusted me implicitly with my vision for us, not my vision for me, what I wanted us to do, what I wanted us to look like, how I wanted people to see us and view us and respect our craft and feel comfortable around us. So I was like, we have to be about our thing, and they trusted me, and I think it paid dividends for what we went and done and achieved. But it wasn't always easy, but nothing ever is.
No, it wasn't easy. So I said it again, I'm full of cliches, but heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? Have you ever struggled a lot being honest at any time? Has the pressure ever gotten to you? Whenever, even later years that we'll get talking to, when you start, you know, your celebrity status, for want of a better word, has risen. Has it ever felt too much?
You know what? Like honestly, never. Like I think I've done really well. And when I spoke earlier about the importance of having a tight and very good friendship group, I think my circle, like my inner circle of just, I've always felt like very safe. I've always felt like I belong. When I look at the way that Timmy and Mikey treated me, how they made me sort of feel that, listen, we're gonna back you. Like you can, we're always here for you. Like you're good. Like we get you. We understand you, Johnny. Go and just be and do what you're doing. I just felt like, you know, I didn't never had the fear of the future, which is anxiety or, oh, we've done that, which might bring on depression. It wasn't there because I had such a good set of people around me. I kind of had a clear direction of where we were going. And, you know, I think as well, I'll give some credit to my mum, because the greatest gift, I mean, my mum didn't give us much with regards to things because there wasn't a lot to give, but the greatest gift that she gave me was, you know, the importance of self-respect and self-belief. And when I listen to a lot of the problems that people have and the challenges mentally that they have, a lot of them I will take down to self-confidence, self-belief, how they think they're going to be perceived. And, you know, for that reason, I haven't really had to deal with that stuff.
Have you ever been approached to be, I'm sure if you have, it's documented, to be a mentor for people, you know, because you've achieved so much? Have you ever been involved with charities or organisations where they've looked to you as to be a role model?
Yeah, I've done loads of that, Andy. I've done loads of that officially. I've done loads of that unofficially. I still have, you know, friends that are very, very successful that will call me and, you know, they tease me and say, anytime you want to hang up your headphones, I think you'll make a fantastic counsellor. You know, it's just trying to help. I just love helping. I get that from my mum. She'd help anyone. Do you know what I mean? You know, people used to come to our house and get food, and there was hardly enough food for us to eat between us, but she would never.
Right. Everybody got fed.
Everyone got fed, and you know, that sense of community has stood me in good stead. And sometimes, and most of the time, it's not even a physical thing. It's a deed, it's a thought, it's a phone call, it's a viewpoint that you're offering to help someone.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. We're going to get right back to the music now, but the final thing that I want to ask for you is, I mentioned it in the description, you were awarded in the New Year's Honours. Can you tell us about that, exactly what that was? And does it make you feel uncomfortable talking about this? Because I see a bit of a grimace.
No, you know what it is? I mean, this might be the first place that I've really spoken about it in as much depth as I'm going to do now. And, you know, when it came out, I did a news program, but I didn't really speak about it too long because I knew that I wouldn't have enough time to do it. So I was just I'm a little bit conflicted because of the whole thing of empire and what empire stands for, and that actually empire hasn't been great for my people historically. So taking an award from, you know, someone that's caused your people problems, it didn't come easily for me to take it. That said, you know, my mum passed away 7.5 years ago, and I know that she would have been extremely proud. Now, she would have been as proud for me whether I accepted it or if I got recognized to accept it and I didn't accept it. She would have still been proud, but to accept it, where I could have left the medal at her house to kind of say, you know what, Mum, for all of those, and I'm going to try not to get emotional here, for all of those sacrifices that you made for me and my brother, so there was a part of me that was like, it's not something that I've spoken about, loads. I haven't put it on my email address. I haven't done anything like that. But, it's it goes a little bit deeper, and that's why I didn't just go, I'm not going to take it. Yeah. But yeah, they I got awarded it because, quite ironically, that after when lockdown came, when I decided I was going to do some streams, and I was one of the fortunate ones. I had the setup in the house, and I was comfortable in that I had I could afford to eat and look after myself, and I wasn't lonely. And I know that there were a lot of people not as fortunate as me, so I thought, well, I'm going to offer up this time and do some streams, and rather than asking people to subscribe or pay money, I just asked people to donate some money for charity, and we raised some money for the nurses, and we just did it, and everything was fine. And then a couple of people on the stream said, right, we should try and get him recognized for this, and then I got recognized for my work through music during COVID, which was another reason I took it for all of those people that were there with me 3-4 times a week on Twitch and on Instagram and on Facebook, and built up an amazing little community of people. And Andy, I tell you, not a week goes by where someone comes up to me and says, you helped me get through lockdown. You know what I mean? It's quite a special and profound thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, you definitely touch in the people in the chat, and thank you for sharing that with me. I'm privileged to be able to have heard that from the heart. Getting into lockdown, being in that position, it would have been years of dedication, years of experience from the Radio 1, and you slowly starting to pull away. It wasn't a conscious decision, I'm sure, but it just happened that you started to pull away from the guys, right, from Timmy and Mikey, and then you were in those social circles. You were then presenting mainstream radio shows. You were presenting awards. You were on red carpet, and it wasn't a calculated decision. I think I've just said that once. It just happened, right? Because you have the charisma to carry it through. And then 10 years down the line, you were on, or however long it was, what was it? Dancing with the Stars, Dancing on Ice?
Strictly Come Dancing.
You know what? I never do any preparation for
it's strictly.
So you have to.
No, it's fine. It's strictly. So what happened was we
Come Dancing. Unbelievable.
Yeah. We joined Radio 1 in 2000, and we had we had two shows. So we had the Sunday night, Monday morning show, Dream Team Presents, where we used to get all the different guests on and guest mixes, and then the Sunday morning was just us. And they in 2003 we didn't keep the Sunday morning one. We kept the Dream Team Presents, the specialist show, but the controller came and said to me, look, I've got a bit of a situation. This is what it is. I want to take you for lunch and talk to you. So what he said to me was like, look, we're not going to renew the Dream Team Sunday morning contract, which is the bad news. But I want to offer you the opportunity to host Weekend Breakfast, which would have been Saturday and Sunday mornings from 7 till 10. So he said, but that would be on your own. So I said to him, look, it's a fantastic offer, and I would love to do it, but I can only do this with the blessing of Timmy and Mikey. So can you just, you need to afford me the time to speak to them both face to face and get their feelings. So, I sat down and I said, look, this is what's happened. I'm only doing it if you're okay. We're keeping our Dream Team Present show, but they want me to do Weekend Breakfast on my own, which means, I'm going to be playing Missy Elliott and Maroon 5 and Jack Johnson, as well as MJ Cole and Wookie, right? So it was right across the board. And they said, listen, like, we are, again, like, so proud of you. You're always representing us. Go and do it. Like, just go and smash it. And that was it. Again, the boys just doing what the boys do. Do you know what I mean? So I went and done that for 3 years. Did Strictly in 2006 as well. At the time, I was doing 5 Live, doing my football stuff, and I did that up until 2010. So yeah, it's a lot of.
Did you instigate that? Or did someone say he knows his football? He's not bad looking. He's got a gob. He's got a gob on him. He's got a gob on him. Let's see if he'll work. Or did you get someone who sort of suggested that?
No, how that came about was we always used to talk about football on our show, and Bob Shannon, who was the controller of 5 Live at the time, he was like, you seem to know your football and seem to be quite well connected, because we were always giving shouts to the players, right? Because we were friends. They used to listen all the time. We used to hang out. We'd go on holiday together, and they'd come to clubs and gigs up and down the country with me. These were actually my friends who happened to play football. And then, in 2003, I started 606. Did that for 7 years on 5 Live. Did a few, one-away specials on there. And then it just opens, there's like another world opens up. You open a door and it just leads to so many other rooms. So then I started doing one-off special documentaries, interviewed Sir Alex Ferguson and Jose Mourinho, and it was Sir Alex Ferguson's first interview with the BBC for like 7 years or something like that. So it was a big deal when I got it. I'd been speaking to, and this is going to sound like a massive name drop, but it really isn't like that. I'd been speaking to David Beckham about doing an interview with him, and he said, yeah, and we agreed to do it, and we agreed the date. And it just so happened that the date we'd agreed to do it was the date that the England squad was announced. And he'd been out of the squad for a couple of years. And on the weekend we'd done the interview, he'd just been called back into the squad. So like the timing was unbelievable. And then, everything that comes with it. And we've got this very exclusive David Beckham interview. To be honest with you, like the timing meant that he would never have done that interview if he had an inclination that he was going to be in the squad. But we did it at a time just because, we got on and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember bouncing back a couple of years when they strolled through the crowd at Twice as Nice into the DJ booth by your side. I've never been in a club where I felt the ripple of excitement just emulate across the sea of heads. Honestly, that was just something special. I mean, one of the many nights at Twice as Nice. I remember it clearly at the end. I mean, they were really cool. Like Victoria was a friend of Dane Bowers, who was obviously a friend of ours and a regular at Twice as Nice. And when I was only speaking about this today, funny enough, that Dane and Victoria Beckham did that track Out of Your Mind and gave it to us as an exclusive. And we played it for, I don't know how many weeks we played it. And didn't say who it was by, and we just started teasing who it was by. Anyway, it came out, went to number 2, sold 200 and odd thousand copies. But then Victoria was always like considering she was a member of one of the most successful girl bands, if not the most successful girl band this country's ever produced. She was so like cool and grateful and humble about it, and she would always never hold back to show that gratitude. Anyway, she then called after that and, asked me to, said, right, I'm having a party for David. I want you to come and play for David. But all part of it was, then coming down to, they came down to Twice as Nice and just chilling in the DJ booth, as you do. The world's power couple at the time, they really were. Yeah, it was wonderful. I think I was playing downstairs, but I remember it vividly. So all of the celebrity moments, the superstar moments, the rise as you continued the TV appearances, and all through this, you never felt out your depth. Never.
No, not really. The thing was, because I think I was actually only having this conversation today again with someone about it, that because I felt that I became well known for a skill or a craft, even if I stand in a room with more famous people than me, I feel that I'm in here.
Does that exist?
No, like, because I'm, I'm here. Listen, I'm a football man. I've been in, you go in the players' lounge after a game, and I might as well be like carrying the water, and Emil Heskey or Michael Owen walks in. Do you know what I mean? Or you're off the beaten track with Jamie Redknapp. No, who I am. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you hang around with footballers in the UK, you realise there's levels to this well-known stuff. Do you know what I mean? But that aside, because I did what I did and I knew that people know me for what I do, I always felt like I was not entitled in that way. I was worthy of where I was.
I was just about to say, you felt that you could hold your own. Your knowledge was impeccable. You've never had the imposter syndrome. That's not something that exists in your language, right?
Not in an arrogant way. In a way that I always feel that I owe it to myself to represent my craft, represent my boys Timmy and Mikey, represent my genre of UK garage, represent DJs around the world. You get that little tinge of responsibility, but not in the sense of like I don't belong here. Because even if I was, if I was stood in a room with David Guetta and Calvin Harris, I would go, yeah, they are world famous, unbelievably mega rich superstar DJs. But I was at the forefront of a scene. I've been doing what I've been doing for 25 years and I'm still doing it. So I deserve to be in the conversation.
Yeah. Pass me the LL Cool J 12-inch.
Yeah, and I'll show you some real stuff on vinyl, baby.
Okay, so listen, all the little different moments that we will undoubtedly skip over, I want to bring it forward up to right here, right now. We had a shout from Mark Russell earlier that you've been working closely with in Bedford. Shout out to Mark.
Love Russell, man.
Tell us about A House Full of Garage, because it's not that it needs promoting, but this is just another incredible string to the bow.
Well, so A House Full of Garage, just before COVID, I approached Butlins and said that I'd like to do a UK Garage Weekender, and programmed a Friday and a Saturday, thinking that was just the weekend, and presented it to their main man, and he was like, right, this looks good. Started talking budgets, and then COVID came and just completely knocked it out of the water. Then we go back to last year, 2022, and I was doing Southport and at Butlins. So they said, look, I'm going to come down and we can have a little chat again about the event. So went down and sort of tweaked my old document once I found it on my desktop and said, I'll do this and do that. And he was like, okay, but you do realise the weekender is 3 days. I was like, wow. Okay, so I then had to go and program another day. We had a few more conversations, tweaked it, come up with some artwork, and we said, right, we'll put it on sale in September, and it was going to be in the following May. And this is going to be their first ever UK Garage Weekender. And we put it on sale, and it sold out 4,500 by December. To which they were delighted. I was delighted. I didn't even really know. Sarah from Extreme Talent messaged me and said, you didn't tell me that the weekend is sold out. I was like, what do you mean? She said, you didn't tell me. And I was like, that's because I didn't know. I said, what do you mean? How do you know it's sold out? And she said, well, my friend's just gone to book it and it said it's sold out. I was like, I had no idea. So she then sent me the link saying sold out on it. Then I contacted, the boss at Butlins and said, is this true? Or like, are you holding tickets back? And he went, oh no, yeah, I was meant to get in touch with her. Yeah, it's sold out. And that was in December. And yeah, the rest is history. That's crazy. Wow. It's like very, very, wow. very, very hard.
All the hard work. So you haven't done all that alone. Who did you have to pull into just brack. And actually, something else I forgot to mention, you're on bloody Mastermind. I mean, geez. So yeah, who are you brainstorming with to get all this together? You got to have a team. It's not one man army, right?
Okay, so
I don't expect you to name them all because you'll definitely miss somebody out.
What I'm gonna do is most probably really surprise you with what's gone on here. Yeah. is that the actual programming of the entire lineup I'd done myself. I had to speak to a couple of agents because people that I know are represented and they've done their part. And then as time has gone on and it's developed out, and I am gonna name check some of the people on it because they have some of the stuff they've already done and some of the stuff they're going to do on the day. So, DJ P, Chloe, and my main man DJ Volatile. Lex Beats has been helping me out loads over the last couple of weeks, and that's going to grow and develop as time goes on. Nick Smoot's going to come down and help me run the event. My girlfriend's been a massive help as well because she has a more of a marketing kind of background. So she's been giving me some sort of tips and insights, and then I've been adding that into what I already know. So, but it largely is my sort of brainchild. I have the spreadsheet. I've been standing there and tweaking it around and moving people around. And, I was speaking to one of the MCs that are going to be on it, MC Fizzy from Genius Crew, the other day. And I said, you know what? I looked down, I think there's 80 different people on that lineup, and I have 79 numbers. I have 79 of the people that are playing out of 80 in my phone. The only one that I don't, 78. The only two that I don't have are Callahan and Hermit. All the other people I was able to call, that's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I relate to that. Clearly not on that huge scale, but
but you know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it does take a team, but it's important that whether I'm speaking Volatile or DJ P or Lex Beats or Nick Smooth or my girlfriend Laura or whoever else, that they see the passion. Like I'm driving it from the front, and they go, right, this is important. It means something. So for them to then add their time and effort and energy to it means that they know that it's not going to be wasted. So yeah, it happens this weekend. Really, really looking forward to it. Everyone's really excited about it. Yeah, away we go, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations are definitely in order.
Thank you.
In the 90 minutes that we've been talking, we've covered an amazing journey that you've had, and I'm fairly certain that it's far from over, right?
Yeah, I mean, I find myself in a really, I feel blessed. I feel privileged. I'm lucky, but I've created some of my luck because I graft. I know that I'm a grafter. But that aside, I know a lot of people that have worked hard and still don't end up with the fruits. So like I said, I'm grateful for all that I've been given so far and all that I'm gonna give, but I've not finished yet. And the thing is, once these doors start opening, my thing of legacy is, right, how can I keep them open and how can I get as many people through these said doors as I can. Less than a year ago, I started my own show at Radio 2, which has now, opened up another world. So 25 years in, I'm now about to embark on another level that I didn't see before, because 23 years ago when we joined Radio 1, I had 23 years less experience and knowledge. I now join Radio 2 with all of that and all of that experience, good and bad, all of that knowledge, good and bad, to add on to this. So yeah, in a funny way, it feels bigger now than it did then.
Mm-hmm. That's great. One thing that I struggle to comprehend is the how you find the connection now with the younger audience, because you clearly do. Has that been easy? Not even a transition, connecting with them and feeling relevant.
This whole the whole word of relevance. This is my take on relevance. Yeah. If you know your lane and you know your market and your audience, you will always be relevant. if you're chasing clout and chasing what's not yours, you won't be relevant. And all I've ever tried to do is be known as a person that cares about his craft and plays good music. And if you're into that, then I'm relevant to you. If you're not into that, I'm not relevant to you, and we're on different paths. And whether that's me playing every week through the summer at O Beach and in Ibiza, where, you know, the age group might be 18 to 40, me doing a Spoony's House, the brunch stream, where I'm playing reggae and soul classics from the 70s and 80s, or Radio 2 or anything in between, I'm like, this is who I am and this is what I do. And if you're listening, I'm relevant to you. And if you're not relevant, if you're not listening, then I'm not relevant to you, and that's fine.
Love me or leave me, he says.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is, you can't be all things to everybody. And, you know, I also believe that people who love the music that I play, I want to play that music to them. And that doesn't mean you have to be 40 or 50. You could be 18. Because I know when I was 18, I absolutely loved to listen to music that 40-year-olds were listening to. Music was always aspirational to me growing up. I wanted to know what people who really knew about music were listening to. And for that reason, I end up having a collection that has, you know, a lot of music that was made, and definitely in its heyday before, you know, if not before I was born, definitely when I was old enough to go out and really appreciate it. But I love it. So if that's good enough, that would have been good enough for a young me. It would be good enough for some young other people.
Some other young'uns. Okay. Well, my friend, thank you so much for giving me your time. If everybody needs more Spoony in their life, they can find him on Radio 2 at 10 p.m. UK.
10 o'clock tonight.
10 o'clock tonight. Mate, I'm just going to say thank you. Good luck for the weekend. Well, good luck. I wouldn't even say good luck. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you. And, how's things going for you anyway? How's Vocal Booth going?
Yeah, Vocal Booth is great. We've had a couple of tricky years with the COVID. We've moved to a different area now, so we've had to shrink it down because we've got limited venues. But it's great for me, like yourself. It's that my passion is about the community that I'm servicing, and the community is getting bigger and bigger. There's a lot more choice out there, but as you've just said, you can't be all things to all people. And I know that by focusing what I want to do to these people, we move forward stronger together. Then
you can't lose. And this is the thing: if you're doing what you love to do, what you're passionate about, you know, you never ever lose. When I started streaming, I know you're going to go now just quickly, but when I started streaming, it was
I'm happy to sit talking to you all night.
It was like if I'm the company for two people that have no company, then that's the reason I'm gonna do this stream. Because I'm gonna play the music anyway. We're stuck at home, we're in isolation. I'm gonna play this music anyway. If I have to press a extra couple of buttons to turn on the cameras and start the stream, that's it. And it just, that was it.
Okay, well, I'm just my eyes have just looked down to the chat, and this will be the last question, because I mean I am happy to sit talking to you all night, but I know you want to get ready for your show.
No, I've got 10 minutes. I've got 10 minutes. I've actually got 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes. Danny44 says, I've got a question. This is going to be an impossible question. Given your exceptional, fruitful career, what has been the best and most memorable gig you have ever done?
Best and most memorable gig, Danny. I'm going to combine. There's a couple actually, and at the turn of the millennium in Napa, taking Radio 1 and doing a Radio 1 show live on the beach, that was incredible, because doing a radio show, an outside broadcast where you actually get to see and interact with your audience, it's such a beautiful thing, especially for a clubbing touring DJ. But we also did. Can
I offer up Round Hay Park? That was special.
Oh, in Leeds. I mean, geez, that was amazing. That was amazing as well. We did. What was that called? Love Parade.
It was a Love Parade. That was a Radio 1 Love Parade.
It was. MC Rankin was speaking about that the other day. Big up Ranks.
I've got loads of photos of that float. You know
what?
Yeah, I've got loads.
You need to send.
I'll get them over to you because I was there with my brother, God rest his soul, and we had a great day because I did a set on there.
Yeah,
beautiful day.
Yeah,
Incredible.
that was amazing. I mean, I did the most people I ever played it. I mean, a lot of people always talk about the gigs in the sense of the biggest ones. I did when George Groves fought Carl Froch at Wembley. I DJ'd in a stadium to 80 odd thousand. Played a full garage set. That was big. But you know, Club Summon, 600 people in 1997 in Ibiza, unbelievable. Lords of the Underground, Camden Palace, unbelievable. I know I'm mentioning loads there, Danny. Sorry. You know, twice as nice resident at the Coliseum. I think that was the jewel in the crown. That was the one for me. That was like the biggest single event, I think. Collie.
And Pac says, I was hoping he was going to say when I warmed up for him in Milton Keynes when Mark Yearwood put on the party.
Big up. You know,
another Liverpool fan, right, Mr. Yearwood?
Yeah, that's right, man. Big up, Mark. I'm always just grateful for all of my gigs. I love DJing. I love being out there. I love seeing people dance. I love that I'm there to help them dance and have a great night. It's such a beautiful position, such a beautiful occupation to have. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I definitely agree. Okay, brother, I will leave you to go and get yourself some food and get ready for the show. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.
Up, man.
Thanks, everybody, for being on.
Take care. Wow. Okay, so that was absolutely beautiful. Really got to connect, really got to find out a little bit more about him. I don't need those anymore because it always sounds weird listening to myself in my ears. Let me scroll up and see what people have been saying. Michael, forgive me for not asking the question. You wanted to know about UK producers who emulate the classic sound. What does Spoony think of them? He's very approachable, as I'm sure you know. Get in touch with him on Instagram or through his Facebook page. On here, we can see, I wanted to throw forward, last week on the show, I shared the sad news that Jason S. had passed away. And the Only Ways Garage, the party that he was responsible for opening and starting, should I say, they're having a charity event on the 8th of July in Birmingham at the Hockley Social Club. Shout out to Gary Solomon for sorting this out. And you can see a whole host of DJs on the terrace area and then inside in Cafe Artem. Tickets are on sale now and the money will go to Jason's chosen charity, which is going into research about the disease that sadly took his life way before time. So that is on Saturday, the 8th of July. I'm going to be back in Birmingham myself 3 weeks after that, actually, on the 29th of July. We're having a vocal booth reunion in the second city. I'll talk about that a little closer to the time. Lots of love from everybody who are giving us praise inside the chat room. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'll say, if you can like the video, liking the video shows YouTube that more people are interested in what I'm doing and it gets pushed out to more people who may get to see it and they can find out all the wonderful videos that I have got on my wall. And if you don't want to miss another live conversation that I do, if you subscribe to the channel, then when I do go live, you'll get an email and you'll also get a notification on your YouTube app. So those are two options for you. Thank you so much for your time today. I truly appreciate that. And thank you again to Spoony. If you've recently subscribed, then your name will be here shown on the screen. And on the right hand side, we have got my faithful Access members who help me out on a monthly basis by chucking a tenner into the pot, and they get to win a nice little bonus at the end of every month when we do a cheeky little raffle. So thank you to everyone for your help. If you need anything, graphics or websites, I'm your man. Take care.